Hi, this is Bilal and this lecture is based on growth factors of bacteria. So actually we have different factors which are affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways, and in these factors we have chemical factors, we have physical factors. In physical factors we have temperature, we have pH, and we have osmotic pressure. Similarly, in chemical factors, we have gaseous concentration, we have even osmotic concentration. So we have different factors, and these different factors are affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways. For example, if you are discussing the factor of temperature, then this factor of temperature is very important factor, because even this factor is affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways, and even on the basis of temperature you can classify bacteria in different classifications or in different categories. Like you have some psychrophilic bacteria. Actually these psychrophiles are growing in freezing temperature, or they are growing in very low temperature. As you can see that these psychrophilic bacteria can grow at 0 Celsius or even in minus Celsius, and the optimum temperature for these psychrophilic bacteria is 15 Celsius, but they can even grow up to 20 Celsius, but after 20 Celsius they will die. And now under the classification of these psychrophilic bacteria, we have psychrotrophs. So actually these psychrotrophs are coming under the subgroup of these psychrophiles, and they can grow up to 20 to 40 Celsius. Then we have mesophilic bacteria, and these mesophiles are very important bacteria because they are living in moderate temperature, and actually they can grow from 20 to 45 Celsius. But the optimum temperature for these mesophilic bacteria is 35 to 37 Celsius. Then we have thermoduric bacteria. Actually these thermoduric bacteria are coming under the classification of mesophilic bacteria, and they will not grow in the presence of very high temperature, but they can resist very high temperature. As you can see that these are coming under the classification of mesophilic bacteria, and they can even resist pasteurization process. And this thing is very important in case of thermoduric bacteria, that these bacteria can resist the pasteurization process. Then we have thermophilic bacteria, and these thermophilic bacteria can grow at very extreme temperature, very high temperature. And in this class we have bacteria which can grow up to 80 Celsius, and the optimum temperature for these thermophilic bacteria is from 50 to 60 Celsius. Then we have hyperthermophiles, and these hyperthermophiles are growing in very extreme temperature. As you can see that they can even grow up to 121 Celsius, in which we have some endosporic bacteria, like we have Clostridium, we have Bacillus, we have those bacteria which are forming endospores. So this factor is very important factor, because this factor is affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways. Now this thing is also very important, that how these psychrophilic bacteria or these thermophiles can grow at very low temperature or even at very high temperature. So for example, we are discussing the case of these psychrophilic bacteria, and these psychrophilic bacteria are those bacteria which are living in freezing temperature or at very low temperature. Now remember one thing, that for example if you have some normal cells, so these normal cells at freezing temperature will die. They will die because they have crystal formation in the cell membrane. As you know that this is your cell wall and this is your cell membrane, and in cell membrane you have lipid. So actually in freezing temperature this lipid is locked up into the crystalline structure, due to which we have crystal formations in the cell membrane, or you can say that in the plasma membrane. So actually whenever we have crystal formation in the plasma membrane, it will affect the fluidity of cell membrane, due to which it will also affect the transport of cell, due to which cell will die. But in case of psychrophilic bacteria we have some important adaptations, and in these adaptations, first thing which is very important, that in case of psychrophilic bacteria we have high proportion of unsaturated fatty acid, and this thing is very important, high proportion of unsaturated fatty acid, because this high proportion of unsaturated fatty acid is preventing the bacteria from crystal formation in the cell membrane. As we have no crystal formation, so it will also maintain the fluidity of cell membrane, and also it will maintain the transport of cell. So in this way whenever psychrophilic bacteria have high proportion of unsaturated fatty acid, then this high proportion of unsaturated fatty acid will help bacteria to survive at very low temperature or at freezing temperature. And besides this, bacteria are also containing some anti-freezing proteins, and these anti-freezing proteins are doing the same thing, that these anti-freezing proteins are preventing bacteria from crystal formation in the cell membrane. And besides this, they have some ice nucleating protein productions, and also they have trehalose biosynthesis. You can take this trehalose just like a ice cream for bacteria. As you know that we are discussing the case of psychrophilic bacteria, and these psychrophilic bacteria are growing at freezing temperature or at very low temperature. So definitely, as they are living in low temperature or at freezing temperature, so definitely they will like ice cream. So this trehalose is just like ice cream for these bacteria, and these psychrophilic bacteria are taking this trehalose in the form of carbon and as a source of energy. Furthermore, they have also many adaptations in case of freezing temperature. They have down regulation of flagella, they have upper regulation of outer membrane proteins, they have upper regulation of membrane transporters, they have upper regulation of peptidoglycan biosynthesis, and they have upper regulation of LPS biosynthetic genes. So we have different mechanisms, we have different adaptations in case of psychrophilic bacteria, due to which they can survive at very low temperature. Now, for example, you are discussing the case of thermophilic bacteria, or you are discussing the case of hyperthermophiles. So in case of thermophilic bacteria or in case of hyperthermophiles, we have ether linkage, and with this ether linkage we have high proportion of saturated fatty acid. And as we have high proportion of saturated fatty acid, so these bacteria have high melting point. As they have high melting point, so they can resist very high temperature. And not only this, but also they have some heat shock proteins, and these heat shock proteins are very important proteins, or you can say that this adaptation is very important adaptation, because these heat shock proteins are preventing bacteria from high heat, from high temperature, and even in their nucleotides they have high GC content rather than AT content. And also they have many adaptations due to which they can survive at very high temperature. Then we have factor of pH, and even this factor is very important factor, because even the slight change in pH can change the growth of bacteria. And on the basis of pH, we have different classification of bacteria. Like we have acidophilic bacteria, and these acidophilic bacteria are growing in acidic pH. We have neutrophile, and these neutrophilic bacteria are growing in neutral pH. Then we have alkaliphilic bacteria, and these alkaliphilic bacteria are growing in basic pH. So we have three bacteria on the basis of pH. We have acidophilic bacteria, we have neutrophilic bacteria, we have alkaliphilic bacteria. Now this thing is very important, that how these acidophilic bacteria or how these alkaliphilic bacteria can grow in acidic environment or in basic environment respectively. So for example, you are discussing the case of acidophilic bacteria. Now these bacteria are living or growing in acidic pH. So as they are growing in acidic pH, so definitely in the external environment they have many more hydrogen ions. So as you can see that this is the external environment and this is the internal environment of bacteria, or you can say that this is the cytoplasm of bacteria. And in external environment you have pH which is even less than 3. Remember one thing, either you are discussing the case of acidophilic bacteria or you are discussing the case of alkaliphilic bacteria. In both cases you need to make your internal environment neutral. You need to make your cytoplasmic pH neutral, and this thing is very important in case of alkaliphilic as well as in case of acidophilic bacteria, that they need to make their internal pH or internal environment neutral. How they will make it? For example, you are discussing the case of acidophilic bacteria, and in case of acidophilic bacteria we have sugar coating on cell wall. So we have sugar coating, and this sugar coating is exposed to OH negative. So whenever from external environment this hydrogen ion is trying to penetrate inside the cell, we have sugar coating which is exposed to OH negative, which prevent this hydrogen to penetrate inside the cell. This is first thing. Second thing is that how they will make their internal environment neutral. Actually they are using some anti-Poulter system. In anti-Poulter system we are taking some molecule inside, and in return we are expelling some molecule outside. So in this case they for example have many more hydrogen ions inside the cytoplasm, or you can say that many more hydrogens inside the internal environment. So actually in order to make the internal environment neutral, they will expel this hydrogen outside their internal cell, and instead they are taking potassium ion inside. So in this way they are making their internal environment neutral. So this is what actually the adaptation of acidophilic bacteria in acidic environment. And now for example, if you are discussing the mechanisms of alkalophilic bacteria, then even these alkalophilic bacteria need to make their cytoplasm or internal pH neutral. And how they will make it neutral? Actually they have some residues in the form of gluconic acid, in the form of glutamic acid, and these residues are actually making their matrix acidic. And with this, as you know very well, that these are alkalophilic bacteria, and these alkalophilic bacteria are living or growing in basic pH. So as this is the basic pH, so in external environment we should have many more OH negative ions. Similarly, these OH negative ions from external environment will try to penetrate inside the internal environment. But as you know that these bacteria, these alkalophilic bacteria are containing residues in the form of glutamic acid, in the form of gluconic acid. So these residues will prevent the entrance of OH negative from external basic environment to the internal environment. And secondly, instead of taking this OH negative inside, they will take hydrogen ion and sodium ion inside in order to switch their basic environment towards acidic environment, to make the internal environment neutral. So in this way these alkalophilic bacteria can survive at basic pH, or you can say that can grow at basic pH. And then you have factor of gases. And even on the basis of gases, you can classify the bacteria as aerobes, as facultative aerobes, as strict anaerobes, as aerotolerant bacteria, and as microaerophilic bacteria. So even on the basis of gases, you can classify the bacteria. Now before discussing their mechanisms, you have to discuss one thing, and you have to remember one thing, and this thing is quite new and it is quite interesting, that oxygen is lethal. Oxygen is lethal for prokaryotic cells as well as for eukaryotic cells. This oxygen is lethal because this oxygen is making some radicals in the form of oxide, in the form of peroxide, in the form of superoxide, and these oxides are very much toxic. These oxides are toxic for prokaryotic cells and for eukaryotic cells. In case of eukaryotic cells, we have organelle in the form of peroxisome, and this peroxisome organelle is actually reducing the toxicity of these radicals by converting these radicals of oxygen into another compound which is less toxic. Similarly, in case of bacteria or in case of prokaryotic cells, we have some enzymes, like we have catalase enzyme, we have superoxide dismutase enzyme, and these two enzymes will also doing the same thing, that they will reduce the toxicity of this radical of oxygen by converting it into another compounds. For example, if bacteria is containing superoxide dismutase enzyme, then this superoxide dismutase enzyme is actually converting this radical into H2O2. And further, if bacteria are containing catalase enzyme, then this catalase enzyme is actually converting this H2O2 into water. So in this way, catalase and superoxide dismutase enzymes are reducing the toxicity of these, you can say that, radicals by converting them into another compound. Then, for example, you have aerobes. And aerobes are those bacteria which are living in the presence of oxygen, in which you have example of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So in these bacteria we have both enzymes, like we have catalase and we have superoxide dismutase enzyme, so that they can prevent themselves from the radicals of oxygen by using these two enzymes. Similarly, we have facultative anaerobes, and in case of facultative anaerobes we have those bacteria which are living in the presence or in the absence of oxygen, in which you have example of Escherichia coli. So actually facultative anaerobes are also containing both enzymes. They are containing catalase as well as they are containing superoxide dismutase enzyme, so that they can prevent themselves from the radicals of oxygen. Then we have strict anaerobes, and these strict anaerobes are living in the absence of oxygen, in which you have example of Clostridium, and in Clostridium you have different species, like you have Clostridium tetani, you have Clostridium perfringens. So this Clostridium is actually strict anaerobe bacteria, and this Clostridium do not need any catalase or superoxide dismutase enzyme, because we know that strict anaerobe bacteria are living in the absence of oxygen. As they are living in the absence of oxygen, so no radical of oxygen can harm them. So that is why they do not need catalase and superoxide dismutase enzymes. Then we have aerotolerant bacteria. Actually these aerotolerant bacteria will not grow in the presence of oxygen, but they can tolerate oxygen content, due to which they are known as aerotolerant bacteria. In aerotolerant bacteria we do not have catalase enzyme, but we have superoxide dismutase enzyme. Similarly, we have microaerophilic bacteria, and these microaerophilic bacteria are those bacteria which are living in very small concentration of oxygen. You can say that they are requiring approximately 10% oxygen for their proper growth, due to which they are requiring catalase or superoxide dismutase in a very small amount. So this is what the factor of oxygen, which is even affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways. Then we have factor of salt concentration, and even we have some bacteria which are living in salt concentration, or you can say that which are growing in salt concentration, and these bacteria are known as halophiles. And on the basis of halophiles we have some slight halophiles which are requiring approximately 1 to 6% salt concentration for their proper growth. We have moderate halophiles which are requiring 6 to 15% salt concentration for their proper growth, and even we have extreme halophiles, and these extreme halophiles are requiring approximately 15 to 30% salt concentration for their proper growth. And then we have halotolerant bacteria. Actually these halotolerant bacteria are those bacteria which will not grow in the presence of salt concentration, but they can even, you can say that, resist or even survive in salt concentration. They can tolerate the salt concentration, due to which they are known as halotolerant bacteria. Actually in case of halophiles, these bacteria are adopting some important strategy to survive in high salt concentration, and this strategy is known as salt in strategy. For example, as you know very well that these bacteria are living in environment which is full of salt. So in their external environment they have salt, so they have to move this salt into the internal environment, so that they can make their internal environment and external environment isotonic environment. You know very well that whenever internal and external environment will be same, then it is known as isotonic environment. So they have to make their environment actually isotonic by influx of KCl from external environment to the internal environment. So actually they are making their environment isotonic, and in this way they can survive in high salt concentration. Then we have another important factor, which is factor of water activity, and this factor is very important even. And water activity is actually the ratio of available water to the total water, and in this regard you have even some examples, like in case of Staphylococcus aureus you have water activity which is 0.86%. In case of xerophiles you have water activity 0.6. So this water activity is actually the available water to the total water. In case of Staphylococcus, as I have already told, that you have water activity 0.86, and in case of xerophiles you have water activity which is 0.6. And then we have factor of redox potential, and this redox potential is actually the potential difference which is generated by the coupled reaction in which one substance is oxidized and other is reduced. And this thing is very important, that oxidation and reduction reaction is a primary mean to generate energy, and those bacteria which are aerobic bacteria which are living in the presence of oxygen, they have redox potential in positive, while those bacteria which are anaerobic bacteria, or you can say that which are living in the absence of oxygen, they have redox potential in negative. So this factor of redox potential is also very important factor which is affecting the growth of bacteria. So here in this lecture we discuss what that how many factors we have which are affecting the growth of bacteria, and how these factors are actually affecting the growth of bacteria in different ways.